Today, I'm joined by Jesse Elder. He's an action philosopher, time piercer, author, mentor, speaker, entrepreneur, and all around lover of life. He's also the creator of something called Prime Light, which is the world's most dangerous meditation. With his teachings of self mastery, radical self acceptance, and inspired action, he focuses on helping people to live a self authorized, productive, and fulfilled life with far less struggle than most people believe possible. In this episode, Jesse and I dive into the power of truth telling, why failing intentionally can be more valuable than early success, and how embracing flow opens the door to freedom, creativity, and real impact. This is a conversation designed to shake up the way you think about success and help you get unstuck. Let's jump in. My guest today is Jesse Elder. I got the opportunity to meet Jesse at Destiny Fest here in Austin. He did a little speech on stage, and it was so compelling that I went up to him afterward and asked if he would be on my podcast. So, Jesse, thank you so much for joining me today. I really look forward to sharing your story with the audience.
Appreciate it, man. We'll see what story emerges. It was great to connect with you at Destiny Fest, and we'll see what happens today.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things I wanted to start with was you said something about you were homeschooled your entire life. You never had a desk. You never had to ask if you could stand up and go to the bathroom. Tell me about what that was like and how that's impacted you.
That's a good question. I don't know what else to compare it to. So, like, I never had all those experiences, and I think I didn't realize how different that experience was until I started running into my own, issues growing up about, how do I set goals and achieve them, and how do I make things happen, and really had a pretty smooth journey. Like I'd see something I wanted, I would just go for it, and it didn't make sense to me to ask permission or to, even to tell myself, "Oh, I don't know." Like those words just weren't in my vocabulary. And it wasn't until I started encountering the resistance that a lot of other people had, people that I was supporting or people that I was coaching, or even just in casual conversations. And they'd say, well, here's what I want to create. But there's like this unspoken but. And I was like, fucking do it then. Like, let's go. And they're like, yeah, but I can't because of, and there was ghost stories. There's literally nothing stopping them from either doing what they want to do or learning how to do what they want to do or finding out where they could learn how to do what they want to do. And those are the only three things that are stopping people. Either you don't know what you want, you do know what you want, but you don't know how to get it, but you're still not doing it. Like those are all fixable. Those are all completely solvable problems. So when I began to observe the crazy amount of unconscious inner resistance that people had to following through on their dreams, I began to really research the history of the school system, what it was really designed to create in terms of obedience. And I have many, many, many friends who are phenomenally successful, self-authorized, living meaningful lives, who are also highly educated. So it's obviously not, the same experience for everybody. But I do think it's just wild how many people are still living in a permission based world.
Did you have brothers or sisters that were home with you?
Yep, yep. Yeah, there's five of us.
So there was no lack of socialization or anything like that. You just would learn from your
That's one of the greatest myths around homeschooling is like, what about socialization? And it's I mean, our family is, we have seven people in our family and dogs and cats and goldfish and pythons. And, there was never, you're never lonely, but there was also so many other families that we were connected with who were also doing homeschooling. So there's tons of social activities. And there's so many other things. I mean, my experience was martial arts, but I mean, I've worked with and continue to support a number of homeschooling families. And there are so many things that are available. And that's one of the biggest, whether it's a lie or an illusion about, if a kid is homeschooled, then they're not going to be socialized. And it's just absolutely not true.
Yeah. Hey, real quick, we're building a community of entrepreneurs helping entrepreneurs. These are people just like you who want to start or grow their businesses and are ready to take the next step. If that sounds like something you want to be a part of, sign up and join us today. You have quite the entrepreneurial background. Take us back to the early days, maybe how you got started in your first business and then what happened from there, because you've exited it at least once. So let's go back to the early days.
Yeah, it never started out as a business. It started out because I was passionate about martial arts, and I took my first martial arts class when I was 9 years old. Totally fell in love with it. Trained consistently, never missed a week. Was always there. Got my black belt when I was 15. Started teaching, and when I was 17 years old, I was still living at home, and I told my parents this is what I want to do for the rest of my life, and they were like, "Cool." And I spent the next 5 years teaching, learning how to do the basics of business, how to enroll. I was working for my instructor. So I had a great opportunity to learn the skills on someone else's dime by being the best employee that I could be until I outgrew that position and there wasn't another position available for me. So I knew that's when it was time for me to jump out of the nest and do my own thing. I never really cared about business. I cared about people, not that those are mutually exclusive, but it always seemed to me and still does seem to me that money is a byproduct of serving people, and serving people is a natural byproduct of truly unapologetically following your passion. When you follow your passion enough, you become really good at something. And if you're good enough at something that other people want, they'll pay you for it. And then the money is the very final piece of the equation. So never set out to make it a business. I just wanted to basically not have to get another job so that I could keep training and teaching. And it turns out that paid the bills.
And then you exited that business at some point?
I did. I did. I didn't plan to, but after building an organization, having great business partners, great mentors, we built 8 martial arts schools, and then we had a management company that kind of ran everything. We had a consulting company, which I was running. And that probably 2010, 2011, I knew that I was done, but I didn't know what was next. And as it happens sometimes, once you start admitting the truth to yourself about what you're not going to do anymore, things have a way of speeding up. Next thing you know, I'm sitting across from a business partner and saying, "Hey, I'm ready to sell." And he bought, and 3 weeks later, I was out. So it was a very harmonious process, actually.
Uh-huh. And so what did you do? Now you have, I'm assuming, a fairly sizable check for your exit. Uh, what was next for you?
It was definitely a nice check when I got the time freedom to stop running my business. I was able to pay more attention, or chose to pay more attention to the relationship that I was in. I was married for 10 years. And as the martial arts world went away, and I was basically forced to confront the realities of my relationship that was not healthy. It hadn't been for a couple of years. We had just grown in completely different directions. And it came down to either choosing to stay in the relationship or to live my life, because the two were no longer mutually compatible. There's a lot of things I would have done differently, but I don't regret the decision. We got divorced about 6 months after the sale of the business, and I agreed to a divorce settlement that would take about 80 to 90% over a few years of the business sale. So I was basically starting again at zero financially.
Wow. What was, if you don't mind me asking, what was the reason for that? Was it
Uh,
something that you just, how do you
I,
unpack that?
at the time, I would have told you that I'm doing the right thing. And in retrospect, there was a level of nobility there. There was I wanted to make sure that she was okay. A lot of what was driving it was guilt, because the way that the divorce ended up going down is totally different than I thought it would go based on how I saw my parents get divorced. And understandably, she had her blueprint for divorce and what that looks like. And so it was a very, it was a stark contrast to what I thought would happen. And I react guilt and to that fear and to that pain by overcompensating financially, and basically making sure that she wouldn't have anything to worry about financially for a couple of years. And I don't regret it, but I wouldn't do it again.
Got it. That sounds pretty painful. I'm glad that you're through it. Did that add any fuel to your motivation? Or I know some people who go through a dip like that look at it as rocket fuel to help you get to the next level.
Yeah, motivation is, I think, mostly bullshit, because it implies that you have to feel a certain way in order to do a certain thing. And I think nature imbues us with certain instincts. Like if you have a wonderful meal that's full of fiber, and a couple of hours later you have to take a shit, I don't know how like motivated and aligned you need to be in order to go find a toilet. Like your body's giving you a very clear signal to go and do this thing, and in fact, not doing this thing will cause you great discomfort. And and I don't see any distinction between that or launching a product when it's the right thing and it's supposed to happen and it's everything that you're built and born to do, and you're tapped into that, you're not up in your head trying to talk yourself out of it. You get these impulses, these instincts, and these urges that are creative urges. And it's overthinking that and censoring that and the unconscious damage that most people have about relying on some authority figure to tell them what to do, that I think makes people want motivation. But I also, and I don't mean this unkindly, but I've passed the point in my career where I'm interested in stretching out the inevitable for people. Most people absolutely continually want to fail because that matches their level of low self-esteem. And so they want to be told by an authority figure like Tony Robbins or Jay Shetty or me, God forbid, they want to be told it's going to be okay. Everything's going to be fine. When the truth is, it's probably not going to be fine. It's probably going to be a dumpster fire unless they tell themselves the truth, level up, get training, quit whatever's stopping them. But very few people are attracted to that message. And the ones that are attracted to that message are the ones that don't have time for personal development because they're too busy doing the thing.
Can you give me an example from
On which
somebody you
part?
know? Any of it. Like, have you had a client that was maybe they're just not listening to their gut feeling or something like that?
Yeah, I can't speak for anybody else's gut feeling, but it very much depends on the client because there are it's I think it's very dangerous to generalize like this is the approach for this person, this is the approach for this person. People are not ice cream flavors. And so it's very there's so many layers of nuance. But I did have a guy one time who we were working together to help build his business. It was a coaching business. And I told him from the beginning that this approach works provided you agree with and you adhere to a few ideas. And the very first idea is that you accept 100% responsibility for everything that's going on in your life. If there's 1% of whatever's going on in your life that you don't take responsibility for, and I'm not saying that like if it rains, you're like, oh, it's my fault. No, but what's your attitude towards them? You know, are you going to cry? Are you going to go jump in the puddles? Or are you going to make it tense? Like you're in total control of what you're going to do. So I said, as long as you agree to take 100% responsibility for all the business that's happening and the business that's not happening, then we can move forward. And that means that you have a beginner's mindset. That means that you do what I recommend. And because I've gotten the result that you want to get, and because I've helped a lot of other people get the results that you want to get, then you don't get to ask why. And so if I tell you to turn around in a circle 4 times, stand on your head, then you fucking do it because I'm getting the result and you're not. And he was like, got it. I can do that. So great. So we jump on a call. He starts making progress, starts making more sales, fixes his offer, which was another dumpster fire, fixed his offer, starts being way more engaging on social media, develops his personality, starts being more respectfully confrontational, starts using humor, just basically being himself. A couple of months go by. We're in a 3-month experience. And I picked up the phone one day. We were scheduled for a call. I pick up. I'm like, hey, man, what's going on? And on the other end of the phone, I just hear this, oh, man, Jesse, it was a really hard night. My baby had a baby girl. She didn't sleep last night, and it's my turn to watch her. And I'm listening to this, going, "This is not my job. This is not what I signed up for." So I hung up on it, and I was like, "Ooh, that was close. Almost got some of that drama attached to me."
The victim on you?
Correct. Yeah. So then I sat down at the keyboard, started playing some music, get my vibe back up. Phone rings again. It's him. And I pick up and I'm like, hey, man, what's going on? He's like, Jesse, I'm fired up for our call. I got some great numbers to report. Really looking forward to this. I said, me too. By the way, who stole your phone? Like, who was that? And he just laughed. And he said, that you hanging up on me was worth the $10,000 I paid you,
Wow.
because it made him realize where what he thought were boundaries were more not boundaries. They were unconscious, unspoken preferences that were being completely violated because he hadn't made them real boundaries. And I made it clear to him in the beginning that this is a relationship that's based on 100% responsibility, which means zero victim attitude. And yeah, welcome to life. Like, you're going to get tired. You're going to get overwhelmed. You're going to get stressed. And when you have a job to do or you have a call to jump on, like, don't bring that to the call. And if you can't do that, and we've all been there, I think, then don't do it. Take care of what you need to take care of, and be ready for the reputation hit that's going to cost you if you keep doing it. But it was in his experience, he said that that was a profound experience.
How do you help people shift that mindset? Because I think we've all had bad days where we start feeling sorry for ourselves or whatever's going on. So how do you turn that around?
I can't turn it around. All I can do is lay out the path for someone, and if they choose to follow the path, everything works great. If they choose to stop, that's fine. I'm not going to stop. The rest of the clients aren't going to stop. Everybody's going to keep moving forward. If somebody says I can't because, like, I don't entertain that. I'm not a therapist. I'm not interested nor even particularly qualified to help people try and find out the root of all the things that are happening. Um, it just is not it's not useful. I'm not the guy for that. There it comes and goes. There are times that I am more in that realm than others, but not to I've learned not to try and be in a lane that I'm not currently in. So in terms of helping somebody with their mindset, if somebody wants to help their money mindset, this sounds cliche or cruel, but it's just accurate. The best way to change your money mindset is go make a whole bunch of fucking money. And that just eliminates all the excuses. Because if somebody's like, but I don't know how to make money. Okay, well, stop saying that, first of all. Secondly, change it to, like, who else is doing the thing that I want to do? And how can I spend as much time around them as possible so I can see where their standards are different than mine? And that isn't a change in mindset. That's a change in environment. That's a change in your communication standards. It's definitely a change in your social standards. And it's part of the disease of the personal development industrial complex that makes $1 billion a day telling people what they want to hear. There are very few people in the industry who say it like it is, whether or not it's profitable. And so most people are looking for mindset because they've been taught that they need mindset in order to move forward. I'm very blessed and very appreciative that I had mentors early on who were borderline Cro-Magnon level intelligence, who would not talk about purpose and beauty and confidence and kindness. Like, they wouldn't talk. They would just hold the pads and they would look at the pads and they would hit the pads. And you hit the pad wrong and they go, do it again. And you hit it again wrong and they go, You're like, shit, you hit it again. It was less wrong. And they look at you and you're not hitting hard enough. They smack you in the head. That's how I learned mindset. And I'm so thankful that that was the approach that I had, because it wasn't filled with flowery language that people use to mentally masturbate and avoid doing the thing that they actually need to do.
That's great. So what are you doing right that most people get wrong?
Oh, I'm not doing anything right. I'm happily making way more mistakes than things that work. It's the only way to keep growing. So I will do things that seem to be useful for people and useful for me, but then I'll very quickly get tired of it and I'll break it and I'll go do something else. But that's me. That's what I like to do. I would never ever recommend that there's anything that I'm doing that should be the way that somebody should live their life. You know, I may be an ethical cult builder, but I'm even getting bored of that. Too many people are looking for a place to they're basically looking for another breast to feed on, and they just want to be told that they're fine and they're okay and everything's cool. A lot of that does come from, I believe, comes from compulsory schooling, where the idea behind American schooling, at least, is to make everybody as alike as possible, make them fear being different, fracture their focus by making them pay attention to things that probably aren't even that interesting to them, and have almost no relevance to real life fulfillment and success. So it does make sense that somebody who went through that meat grinder of a process comes out and is just looking for the next place to plug their umbilical cord back in. I'll admit, I got off on that for a while because I was very doubtful of my skills. I was doubtful of my value. And when I would say nice sounding things to people and they would say, "Oh my God, that's amazing," I would be like, "Oh, good, I'm relevant." Till I realized it's just one big circle jerk and everybody's just making each other feel good. Nobody's actually confronting what's actually wrong. And then I realized that I was out of integrity if I keep doing that.
How did you figure out that you were out of integrity?
Because I saw people saying, "Oh my God, that's amazing." And I took them seriously. And then I watched as their life continued to flatline, nothing changed. And they'd come back to a talk or back to a video and they go, "Oh my God, this is amazing." I was like, "I don't believe you anymore." Because when I told my mentors, "That's amazing," I didn't use English. I just showed them my numbers or I showed them the trophy. And that's the difference. I'm not at all in any way claiming to be superior. In many ways, my life is a train wreck from probably what most people would think is a normal, orderly, safe life. But I wouldn't trade it for anything. It's my life. But I didn't learn the illusion of grades equaling real life success. And I sure as hell would never disrespect any of my fight coaches by telling them it was a great class. They would have literally punched me in the face because you don't talk about how much you value the class. What good is it if you like the class if you can't go defend yourself? That means you failed at learning the material. So you're actually disrespecting the instructor and disrespecting the style by learning the material and then going out and failing. The only thing that a fight coach will accept as validation of success is the fighter who goes and wins the fight. And at that point, you don't need to tell your coach, "Thank you, coach, you did amazing." Your victory is the thank you to a real coach. It's the fake ones and the weak ones who want to hear platitudes and applause because they're all just basically covering up for each other that they're not actually doing the thing.
So it's all about results. The results speak for themselves.
Yeah, what else is it about? Yeah, the results are the only currency that matter in the real world. Not likes, not comments, not shares, not breakthroughs, epiphanies, downloads. Who gives a fuck? None of that's real until it results in a behavior change that creates an actual solution to a real world problem that somebody's experiencing. Until then, that's it. Like I have removed people from Zoom calls for saying this is so helpful. How is it helpful? Well, somebody's on a Zoom call and the guy was on the call and he said, "Oh my God, this is so helpful." And I said, "How?" He's like, "Oh, it all makes sense." I said, "But how is it helpful? You're on this at that time as a webinar on how to make money." And he said, "This is so helpful." And I said, "How is it helpful?" He said, "It all makes sense." And I said, "Well, check your bank account. Did you just make another sale because of what I just said?" He's like, "No, but I will." I said, "Stop. You don't do that bullshit on my watch. I'm not going to invite the infection of delusion when we're using clear, specific language to talk about what you're going to do next. I don't care what you're going to do next. So let's not use that was helpful. It hasn't done anything except cost you 27 minutes of your time on a webinar. This has actually cost you. It hasn't helped you one bit. It will when you apply it, but until you apply it, let's not bring this helpful language in. And I'm straining the example a little bit for the purpose of our podcast, but that was the basics. And then he jumped on again a little bit later. He's like, "Oh my God, this is so helpful." And I was like, "Bro, you're not listening. If you use that word again, I'm going to remove you because we don't have posers here. This is for people who are ready to tell the truth about what's working, ready to tell the truth about what's not working, ready to stop doing what's not working, including lying about what's working. So no more helpful. Just be quiet, take as many notes as you need, go apply it." And he's like, "Got it, got it, got it." 5 minutes goes by. "This is so helpful." Like, bing, I kicked him out.
Did he get the message?
I have no fucking idea. I do know that he never messaged me back. And I do know that there's people who stayed on the webinar because they got it, who screenshotted happy client success stories paired with a screenshot of a client payment that came in and a screenshot of a car that they bought for their 17-year-old daughter. Like, cool. Now we're talking. That's results. Everything else is bullshit. Literally everything else is bullshit until it creates a tangible result.
So what are you doing in business now?
As little as possible. Little as possible. There's a men's community called Sigma University, which is it's a private, invite only community for men who are entrepreneurs, who are family oriented. They don't have to have families, but family values are important. And that we launched that January 1st of last year. and it's been a hell of a ride. So that keeps me just busy enough. There's another co-ed community that I have called the Upgraded Life, which is more conceptual than strategic and tactical. But it is a good entry point for people who are looking to expand on these concepts. Admittedly, I have been a lot tougher on whoever's listening to this today than I am on a lot of my groups, partly because I intend to create a distinction between the work that we're doing in our communities and most of what I've seen out there in the personal development world, where there really isn't an emphasis on results. I do take on a handful of one-on-one clients if it's a very interesting case or somebody that's achieved a significant level of momentum in their life and they're now ready to fine-tune the metaphysics and their mindset. But I don't do mindset and metaphysics until somebody has achieved some material momentum. And I spend a lot of time on my farm, and I spend a lot of time with my dad.
How's he doing? I know you mentioned him recently.
That's that's irrelevant to this part of the conversation. But thank you.
Received. Received. So, what did the results look like in Sigma University? How does somebody show you their results?
Good question. There are seven core concepts that we focus on in Sigma University: vital life force, your physical health and energy, your relationships, very specifically primary relationship if you're in a partnership, your relationship with your kids if you're a father, the money making that's happening, and how genuine to you is that money making? How connected to your mission, your purpose is that money? Then compelling adventures. We live in a drone culture, entertainment sort of addicted, screen scrolling thing, and that's not real life. So getting out in the world and having real life adventures, hopefully risky and dangerous ones that cause a man to stop being so much of a chihuahua and become a little bit more timber wolf, like a man who's actually capable of being. Leadership and influence is a significant component that we look at. Spiritual growth in whatever ways that means for him, and vision building. And so each of these areas are core concepts that all harmoniously work together. When you give attention to one area and it thrives, every other area of your life must improve. If you're having to take energy from one part of your life to give energy to another, then there's an imbalance that's happening. So we measure in terms of the the notes and the affection and the love that these men are making with their wives. We measure it in their teenage son not wanting to talk to them to asking to go on a weekend trip with them. We measure it in gross revenue and margin. We measure it in number of problem clients fired. We measure it in the number of new dream clients that are onboarded. We measure it in their clients, tangible results, measurable results, and on and on and on.
That's really impressive. I've never heard of a group like that. That's great.
Yeah, there isn't one. It's only one of its kind.
It reminds me, they flew a drone into a tornado recently, and which was fascinating because you've got this tornado. We think it's just one big circle, but when they got above it, it actually looked more like a Dyson vacuum where there's a circle, but there's several little circles. And to me, that describes exactly what you're talking about, that there's seven different components of our life. And if one of them is not working, then the tornado itself would kind of fall apart. And the tornado in this aspect would actually be something very useful and
Yep.
beneficial.
Yeah, that's cool. I think I saw something about that video. It's 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 very much like a symphony, or like like you see a great band on stage and they're all in sync. You don't have the guitar player who's like playing at 147 beats a minute while the drummer is drumming at 180, while the singer is singing at 130. That would be a disaster. So every area of life has to keep up with and fuel and be fueled by every other area. Buckminster Fuller coined a great term called tensegrity, and it might be a little bit of a cliche, nice sounding thing, but tensegrity is basically a structure where when one part of the structure is stress put on it, the entire structure becomes stronger. Taleb in his books refers to the term anti-fragile being the same thing. It doesn't mean resilient or you're just like able to endure and withstand. It means you actually get better under pressure.
Yeah, I love Buckminster Fuller. I've read several of his books. They're a big read for if some of the listeners haven't read them, there's a lot of big words in there. One of the things that he talks about is a bridge and how you pull tension on it and the cables inside of it, and that's that kind of tension that you're talking
That's
about, and it
exactly it.
does.
That
Yeah,
dude,
I
that's
mean,
exactly it. Look up a Da Vinci Bridge, which is a very cool structure. It's literally made only of sticks or logs, but they're arranged in such a way there's no nails or wires or hinges or screws or fastenings. It's all just put together like a puzzle. But when you step on it, the contact points between each of these pieces becomes tighter. So it's very cool.
oh, I love that. That's amazing. I'm gonna have to look that up. You mentioned briefly metaphysics, and I know in your guide that we're going to share with our listeners, you mentioned visualization. Can you talk about what your mental routine looks like and how you do that?
I can talk about mine, but I would caution anybody against using it.
Okay.
But I'm happy to share, or I can share one that I would recommend for somebody who's starting out, or I can share with somebody who's a more experienced, accomplished visualizer.
Whatever you think you need to share.
Yeah, I would prefer not to share mine, only because there's a lot of context and other concepts that probably are better expressed before that. But basically, it's this. There's a really cool video. Your viewers can pull it up, probably find it pretty easily. It's the Blue Angels. Do you know that the stunt team? I don't mean to diminish their skill. They're fighter pilots, and these guys are in sync. Man, you ever seen these guys or heard of them?
What are they? There was a internet lag there.
Yeah, they're called the Blue Angels, and they're
Oh yeah.
like Air Force pilots. There's a
Yes.
really interesting video where it shows all these guys in their flight suits sitting around a conference table, and they've got like a hand on an imaginary joystick, a hand on the imaginary throttle. Their eyes are closed, and they're all flying the pattern together in their minds. And unless somebody has a very strong performance background, athletics, like competitive athletics, musical performance, first responder training, like firefighter, medical, or military or law enforcement, unless somebody has high stakes performance experience, they're the idea of visualization is totally foreign to them, even though every single study, all the science behind it shows that visualization with emotion through repetition increases tangible performance at a ridiculous rate. And so anybody who says they're serious about achieving something but hasn't visualized, that just tells me they're either not educated, which is not their fault, or they're just abusing this power. And as a side note, I believe this is why there's so much entertainment in the world, because excessive entertainment, screens, games, especially very visceral, shocking things, violence, pornographic images, all this very intense imagery, it completely retards the human ability to visualize of their own accord. If you go see a horror movie, close your eyes, notice what you see, because your nervous system is still, hijacked and frazzled. Some people love that, and some people are actually calmed by that. So I'm not judging the actual thing, but when somebody does make a practice, make a habit out of visualizing the things that they want to experience, visualize the way they want to show up, it 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 creates a sort of pre-paving. It's sort of like you're sending out, and I won't say energy, but you're basically rehearsing the event in advance of being there, so that when you show up, you've got a sense of deja vu. There's a sense of, I think probably all of your listeners being educated enough to know the difference between unconscious incompetence, where you suck and you don't know it, and then you try
Right.
something, you realize how bad you suck, and now you have conscious incompetence. But if you can push through that and keep going, eventually you reach conscious competence, or you can do it as long as you think about it. And eventually you reach unconscious competence, where you just get out there, you make it look easy. But if you have to go through those four stages, visualization dramatically reduces the amount of repetition and practice to reach the same skill level. So for anybody who's not visualizing, I would say, I guess that maybe they just like suffering, or they like things being harder than it has to be. Or to be fair, maybe they've tried visualizing, but they never learned how to do it in a way that felt rewarding, or felt, it should be fun. Like, you should enjoy the things you're visualizing. So It's really simple. It's if you don't know how to visualize, just somebody can just hold their hand out, look at their hand, count their fingers, close their eyes, and count the fingers again, and then open their eyes and hold up a few fingers, close their eyes, count the fingers. That is so basic, but it does strengthen the ability to recall an image. And once you've done that a few times, then you can start imagining the things that you want to experience in advance. I've done a ton of both meditative, where people are actually in a slightly altered state and they're visualizing that way, or just a standard sort of waking brainwave, waking consciousness guided visualizations, and they're very powerful. But there's a ton of stuff on the internet. Anybody who wants to learn visualization can, but it's we used to have our karate instructors, most of whom were under 25 years old, visualize their classes, visualize their recruitment efforts, visualize teaching the intro class to a brand new student, visualize the sale, the close, visualize the objection, visualize the person paying, visualize that student getting their first class or first belt, visualize that student getting their black belt, visualize that kid who was 10 years old, now they're 13, 14, 15, teaching the class with them. Visualize that kid who's now a black belt, now is 19 years old, running a school, making more money than their high school principal, which is not saying a lot, buying a home for their parents because their parents enrolled them in martial arts. So, dude, it was culty as fuck, and it was fantastic because it was a cult in favor of humanity. And I demanded so much from the instructors that worked with me, because the only way that they're going to be able to get this programming out of the way and actual have wealth programming is through repetition and intensity. Same way you learn how to do a proper reverse punch, or same way you learn how to do a triangle choke, or same way you learn how to do a jump spinning hook kick. Same way you learn how to overcome the objection. It's too expensive. I don't have time. What if he wants to quit? You gotta practice that stuff until it's normalized. And you do that, you're not surprised when you make more money you've ever made in your life, given everything you did to prepare.
Mm. I have seen that Blue Angels video, and it is amazing
Isn't it
because they are
cool?
going oh, it's amazing. Yeah, watching them, so you see them jerk. I mean, they're totally into it. I have done a lot of visualization, and I agree that visualization plus emotion is the main thing. A lot of people just think, well, I want to have $1 million, but they never put the emotion into it. They never put the thought, the feeling, the auditory stuff into it, and then they wonder why they don't see it. And the reason is it's like a
Yep.
flashlight without batteries. You're never going to see, right? The light's never going to light
That's
up.
good.
So you
That's good.
have to connect the visualization and the emotion, and then you get this kind of a whole thing. And I also say that it's like, as soon as you say you want something, it's at the end of like a fishing line, and you have to reel it in, and that's REAL, reel it in.
Mm.
And it's like it's already there, and you just have to keep seeing it. And every day that you repeat it, it's like another crank on the reel, and it starts getting closer to you. And pretty soon, it's just right there, and you're like, wow, this is amazing.
That's a great starting point when you can see that the idea of having the image of what you want, and as you said, you reel it in. When somebody does that, but they also are envisioning themselves, like who are they going to be, and what are the behaviors that that version of themselves has normalized, that their behaviors today like wouldn't make the cut. It's like when I started my first martial arts school and I was teaching 3 classes a day, but then I realized the future version of me is going to be teaching 9 classes a day because there's going to be so many students. So I can't teach 9 classes. I don't have enough students, but I could teach 3 classes and then put 6 introductory lessons on the books, and then realize, oh, I don't know how to sign people up. So let me learn, put 6 people on the books, and you become that person. And dude, it's like I blinked, and next thing you know, my classes are full because I stopped doing the failure producing behavior of waiting for people to come in. And I started doing the success producing behavior of going out there, talking to people, inviting them to come and try a class. And that's where the growth happens. Not on the, like we talked about earlier, it's not the mindset of like, okay, now I got it. It's like, no, go and make mistakes, go and fail, and then learn from your failures and get better next time. And then at that point, you can't lose.
So you like made space for the other 6 classes,
Yeah,
and
the space was already there because I only had 3 classes for my current students.
Hmm.
It'd be like a chiropractor who, only has, 3 people coming in today. Well, what are you going to do with all the rest of that time? You should be recruiting new patients. During every time that you're not treating, you should be recruiting. And same thing for anybody who's operating in the wisdom or knowledge economy. There's a whole other workshop, but there's only 3 components to the business, to your operation. There's the job, there's the business, and there's the busy. And the job is the teaching. The job is the thing that you love to do. It's what people are paying you for. Then there's the business, and the business is only 2 things. It's either scheduling appointments with qualified prospects, or it's having sales calls with qualified prospects. And then there's the busy, which is everything that's not the business or the job. And sadly, that's where most people spend their life, is doing anything but the business. And then they wonder why things are taking forever.
That's great. I really love that. As we start to wrap up, what haven't I asked you that you want to share?
Man, that's a good question. I think I would just ask the audience, and this is not about me, but I would ask the audience, if they've been listening to this for 45 minutes, what was the thing that you came on here to accomplish? And more realistically, and I don't mean this personally to anyone, but more realistically, what is the thing that you started this podcast to avoid? What's the thing that you had on your list that I'm going to do today? And instead, you found yourself watching this podcast. Now, I don't mean that in any way disrespectful, Matt, to you or to me, but
Nope.
most people consume information as a way of avoiding things that they know they should be doing.
Mm.
And so when somebody tells themselves the truth, like, oh, yeah, that was a helpful podcast. Oh shit, no, it wasn't. Wasn't helpful. It wasn't helpful. Okay, well, maybe we shone a little light, and maybe people will tell themselves the truth, or hopefully they don't hate you too much because I'm being an asshole, and they could just go, wow, Matt, don't ever have that dude on again. Plus, his cowboy hat's too big for his tiny head.
Yeah, that's great. Where should somebody start if this is their first foray into somebody who's as results oriented as you? Where do they begin to make the change?
It depends what they want to change, but I would recommend that they specialize. So if somebody wants to improve their health, find the absolute best person to help you with that. Pay them as much money as you possibly can. That way you're committed and you don't back out, and then you get the results. You lose the weight, you build the muscle, increase your energy level, get better sleep, get that result, because that will have a cascading effect in every other part of your life. If you want to improve your business, then find the person who's in your industry, who's getting the exact results in your industry. Specialized coaching is going to be the last form of coaching to die. All coaching is going to die, but specialized coaching is going to be the last soldier to fall to AI. So find somebody who has done what you want to do as specifically, as closely as your exact vision for your life, and do everything you can short of moving in with it.
And that's great. Well, Jesse, thank you so much for your wisdom. This has been really great. If people want to get in touch with you or find you, what's the best way to do that?
I'm not, well, I'm very intentionally hard to get a hold of, but I'm accessible on social media. Time Piercer on Instagram, all one word, Time Piercer, or Jesse Elder on Facebook. And I really appreciate the time. I am intentionally abrasive because I don't want people to waste their time in hearing shit that they're going to hear anywhere else. I think that we have an urgency that our species is facing right now. And yes, there are things that are happening in the news. And, if it's happening in your town, then don't listen to fucking podcasts. Take cover. But if it's not happening around you, don't give it any attention unless you've already achieved the goals that are meaningful to you. Because it's just a waste of time. But it is conversations that stand out. It is conversations that remind people more of what's possible, not in a sugary way, but in a, oh shit, that was uncomfortable and I need to do something different. Like that's what I'm here for.
Yeah, I sometimes remind myself that the 6 feet around me are okay right now. So even if things are burning down other places, that's not my neighborhood. That's not my
Nope.
world. That's not my reality. And we've become so ingrained with looking at the news, and we're wasting a huge amount of our lives just looking at things that aren't even happening in our neck of the woods.
Yep.
Yeah,
Amen.
for sure.
Amen. And I will say this, I do believe in people's potential. Like I wouldn't be doing this work if I didn't. If I thought that there was no way that someone can improve the quality of their life, then I wouldn't be doing this stuff. But I do believe I've seen too many people go from being completely physically out of shape, completely heartbroken and lonely, completely struggling financially, to turning all of that around. And so I've seen it happen way too many times to think that that's not possible. Are most people willing to do what it takes? No. And if I can at least help people admit the truth, where somebody says, you know what, I'm not willing to do what it takes, so I'm just going to let go of that dream and I'll be free. Awesome. Like, do that. And then whatever you decide to do, like, be awesome at that. Just stop lying to yourself. And that's my main goal, is just to help people stop lying.
Man, that's awesome. That's a great place to end. Jesse, thank you so much for your time. It's been really insightful, really great. I don't know if I should say that or just show you like all the people that said the results. Show the results.
There you go. Send me the results. And if anybody makes a major change or even a minor changes are badass, then please feel free. Like, DM me on Time Piercer or send it to Matt. Like, I do want to celebrate your results. I just have lost interest with the platitude part of things, but there's always a chance.
Fair enough. I look forward to the results.
It's good stuff. Thank you, Matt. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Take care, Jesse.
Bye.
Want more? Click below for extra resources in our podcast vault. We have show summaries, action plans, and information about coaching.